The story begins with an accident that never felt accidental. A curious mind reaches into a place everyone else tiptoed around. A locked layer of truth, hidden behind routines and distractions. Nothing dramatic happens at first. Just a subtle shift. A strange pattern. An inconsistency that refuses to be ignored. Most people walk past anomalies because comfort demands blindness. But there are minds wired differently. Minds that feel compelled to pull the thread no one touches. That thread reveals something ancient, guarded, and unsettling. A protocol whispered through history, reserved for only 3 individuals who dared to see the world without its mask. The moment that lock cracks open, the narrative of life changes forever. Some doors, once opened, do not allow retreat. Knowledge has a way of reshaping the one who carries it. The discovery doesn't feel like triumph, it feels like gravity shifting sideways. The world around this curious soul behaves differently afterward. Faces look the same, but meanings change. Conversations sound normal, yet intentions become transparent. This protocol wasn't information. It was perspective, a lens sharp enough to cut through social illusions. Suddenly, manipulation loses its disguise. Power structures appear fragile. Every emotional trap becomes visible. The protocol strips away the comfortable lies society depends on. Understanding it means forfeiting the luxury of ignorance. The ones who carried this knowledge before paid for it with isolation. Because the truth doesn't blend well with environments built on performance. Once someone learns how the strings are pulled, they can never again pretend to be a puppet. The discovery spreads inward before it spreads outward. This new awareness alters behavior long before it alters anything external. The soul becomes quieter, not because it's afraid, but because noise no longer feels necessary. Patterns in people reveal themselves effortlessly. Motives show up before words. This kind of understanding creates distance, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. Toxic individuals lose the ability to confuse or mislead because their techniques look childish when seen through the protocol. The mind becomes a recorder that notices more than it should. The heart becomes harder to fool. The spirit becomes harder to chain. And in this shift, the discoverer realizes why only 3 before them were entrusted with this level of perception. It demands strength. It demands restraint. Within toxic environments, the protocol becomes both shield and blade. It protects the heart from manipulation because lies cannot move through someone who sees their shape before they land. It also cuts through delusion, exposing truths long buried under excuses. When someone holds this perspective, they stop engaging in unnecessary battles. They stop begging for honesty from dishonest people. They stop participating in cycles designed to drain them. The protocol teaches something sharper than advice. It teaches refusal. Refusal to shrink. Refusal to react out of panic. Refusal to allow chaos to decide direction. Those who hold this understanding move differently. Not with aggression, but with certainty. And certainty frightens those who rely on confusion to maintain control. Relationships shift under this awareness. The discoverer sees the difference between connection and dependency, between love and possession, between loyalty and convenience. The protocol exposes every emotional imbalance, every hidden intention, every quiet manipulation wrapped in tenderness. It teaches a strange freedom, the ability to walk away without bitterness, the ability to detach without drama, the ability to love without losing oneself. Most people chase relationships for completion. The one who carries this knowledge seeks alignment. They understand that the wrong bond can blind even the strongest vision. They stop mistaking intensity for intimacy. Their heart becomes selective, not guarded, and the people who approach them feel the difference immediately. In workplaces, the protocol rewrites ambition. Instead of chasing status, the discoverer begins studying structure. Instead of fearing authority, they analyze it. They notice how influence truly works, not how it's advertised. They see who operates through fear, who hides incompetence behind charm, who manipulates through flattery. This clarity transforms the way they move. They stop wasting time impressing the wrong people. They stop fearing consequences created by those who thrive on pressure. The protocol sharpens strategic thinking, teaching them to navigate power without losing integrity. Those who once intimidated them now seem predictable. Paper walls are easy to walk through once their structure becomes visible. The social world becomes the most revealing arena of all. Trends begin to look like distraction. Groupthink appears as a cage. Public approval starts to feel irrelevant. The discoverer notices how people trade authenticity for acceptance, and how the loudest voices often carry the weakest truths. The protocol reveals that influence isn't about popularity, it's about precision. It shows how the quietest person in the room can shift the energy more than the entire crowd combined. It teaches that presence matters more than performance, and the moment someone stops performing, the world around them adjusts in discomfort. Authenticity destabilizes illusions faster than confrontation ever could. The psychological transformation that follows is irreversible. Once the mind learns to see beyond surface, it stops being impressed by masks. It starts valuing peace over entertainment, purpose over chaos, solitude over noise. The protocol introduces a level of clarity that feels supernatural because it dismantles confusion permanently. The discoverer no longer reacts emotionally to situations designed to provoke them. They read intentions like open pages. They answer manipulation with silence. They replace anxiety with observation, and observation becomes their power. The toxic lose access because access requires blindness, and blindness no longer exists. As this awareness strengthens, the world reacts. Some people grow uncomfortable. Some grow inspired. Some grow fearful. Most do not know why. They feel the shift before they understand it. The person who uncovered the protocol doesn't need to speak loudly. Their presence speaks in subtler, deeper ways. Calmness becomes their signature. Precision becomes their language. Boundaries become their aura. People sense that something beyond ordinary perception guides their decisions. And those who once tried to control them begin losing all leverage. The protocol dismantles every tactic a manipulator relies on. Without even trying, the discoverer becomes untouchable. Illusions fall away slowly at first, like dust sliding off an old mirror. The world keeps its shape, but meaning shifts. What once felt solid begins to look artificial. You start noticing how much of life was built on assumptions you never questioned. The charming friend who always had a story suddenly sounds rehearsed. The partner who claimed loyalty begins revealing micro-expressions you used to overlook. The workplace hero who bragged about sacrifices now looks hungry for validation, not progress. Illusion falls in layers, peeling away every false role people wore to survive. The clarity doesn't arrive with explosions. It arrives with quiet realizations that hit harder than any confrontation. Life becomes sharper, not because it changed, but because the mask covering it finally tore. When illusions fall inside a toxic environment, the shift feels physical. You feel space widen where pressure once lived. You see dynamics that were invisible before. Conflicts that seemed chaotic now appear choreographed. Hurtful comments you once excused show their intention without disguise. You become aware of how much energy you spent trying to interpret behavior that was never meant to be understood, only obeyed. The illusion of harmony dissolves. What remains is the truth: some people didn't want balance, they wanted control. Some didn't want connection, they wanted access. And some didn't want peace, they wanted compliance. The discovery feels cold at first, but freeing. Seeing clearly hurts, yet staying blinded destroyed more. Every illusion held emotional weight. You carried beliefs to protect relationships that didn't protect you back. You justified actions to avoid accepting that some people chose harm knowingly. When clarity arrives, the mind stops rewriting their motives. The story stops being edited to comfort your heart. The truth appears without filters. You realize you never misread them. You simply hoped the better version you imagined would appear eventually. When illusion collapses, that imaginary version dies. And with it, the guilt you carried for their choices fades. The truth doesn't punish, it liberates. Every revelation becomes a step back into your own strength. Illusions fall dramatically in love. At first, affection blinded you to patterns that were obvious to everyone else. Sweetness made you rationalize disrespect. Hope made you swallow hurt. Fantasy made you ignore inconsistency. When illusion shatters, the romance rewinds in your mind with brutal clarity. Scenes you once cherished reveal manipulation. Words you clung to reveal emptiness. Apologies reveal tactics. And the love you thought was destiny becomes a memory you see through, not feel through. The heartbreak doesn't come from losing them. It comes from realizing how far you bent to keep the illusion alive. But once the illusion falls, so does their power. You stop chasing closure and start reclaiming your identity piece by piece. Friend groups collapse in the same way. Loyalty you offered freely wasn't mirrored. You were included for usefulness, not connection. People who laughed with you spoke differently when you weren't there. The illusion of belonging kept you silent through discomfort. But when awareness sharpens, the group dynamic reveals its true architecture. The loudest voices depended on insecurity. The fake peace depended on gossip. The gatherings were built on routine, not affection. When that illusion disappears, the loneliness you feared begins to feel better than the crowd you tolerated. The fall of illusion frees you from social debt you never owed. Family illusions are the most painful to lose. You grow up believing certain behaviors are normal. You excuse disrespect as tradition. You accept guilt as responsibility. You confuse being needed with being valued. When illusion drops, you see cycles pass through generations like inherited furniture. You recognize patterns that were never love, only control. You begin separating obligation from authenticity. It feels wrong at first because illusions often imitate loyalty. But as clarity grows, you understand that real love doesn't suffocate. And sometimes letting the illusion fall is the only way to build a healthier future. In workplaces, illusions create hierarchies that look unbreakable. The loudest appear powerful. The confident appear competent. The manipulative appear irreplaceable. But when illusion dissolves, roles reveal truth. Confidence without skill becomes noise. Authority without integrity becomes weakness. Popularity without talent becomes circus. The pyramid of influence flips. You stop seeking validation and start evaluating structure. You see who carries the weight and who only pretends to. Illusion falling in a professional setting teaches you one of life's sharpest lessons. Most power is costume, not character. Social illusions vanish next. You stop believing that the loudest online opinions reflect real wisdom. You stop believing everyone is happier than you. You stop thinking you're behind in life because someone else posted a highlight. The algorithm loses its hold when you recognize how much of modern identity is performance. Seeing through the illusion makes the world quieter, kinder, more real. You stop competing. You stop comparing. You start living from intention instead of impression. Psychologically, the fall of illusion creates space for identity. The self you abandoned to fit into false dynamics begins resurfacing. Old dreams return. Old confidence awakens. Old intuition sharpens. Illusion demanded compliance. Truth demands alignment. And once alignment arrives, the nervous system relaxes in ways you never realized were possible. The anxiety you thought was personality was simply the side effect of living in places where the truth wasn't welcome.